Step 3. Preliminary, Step 3. Primitively invalidate all criticism or outside questioning. Now that you have fledgling religion has its core tenets of faith, you need to find a way to protect the faith from the inevitable criticism that will be flung its way. The trick is to adopt a belief that creates a self-reinforcing us versus them Tommy. The trick is to adopt a belief that creates a self-reinforcing us versus them dichotomy. That is, create a perception of us versus them in such a way that anyone who criticizes or questions us immediately becomes a them. This sounds difficult, but is actually quite easy. Here are some examples. If you don't support the war, then you support the terrorist. God created science to test our faith in God. Therefore, anything that contradicts the Bible is merely a test of our faith in God. Anyone who criticizes capitalism is a communist. Anyone who criticizes the president is a traitor. Anyone who thinks Kobe Bryant was better than Michael Jordan doesn't understand basketball. Therefore, any opinion they hold about basketball is invalid. The point of these false urges was them cut off two knees by any reasoning to discuss their before your followers start questioning their beliefs. This false us versus them. This false us versus them dichotomies have the added benefit of always presenting the group with a common enemy. Dichotomy. Dichotomy. Dichotomies is to cut off the knees any reasoning or discussion. Before your followers start questioning their beliefs, this falls us versus them dichotomies have the have the added benefit of always presenting the group with a common enemy. Common enemies are usually important. I know we all like to think we'd prefer to live in a world of perfect peace and harmony, but honestly, such a world wouldn't last for more than a few minutes. Common enemies create unity within our religion. Some sort of scapegoat, whether justified or not, is not necessary to blame for our pain and maintain our hope. Us versus them dichotomies give us the enemies we all desperately crave. After all, you need to be able to paint a really simple picture for your followers. There are those who get it. and those who do not get it, those who get it are going to save the world, those who do not get it are going to destroy it. End of discussion. Whatever it is depends, it is depends on whatever belief you are trying to sell. Jesus, Muhammad, libertarianism, gluten-free diets, intermittent fasting, sleeping in hyperbaric chambers, and living off obstacles. Also, it's not enough to tell your followers that non-believers are bad. You must demonize them. They are the downfall of everything that is good and holy. They ruin everything. They are evil. You must then convince your followers that it is of the utmost importance that everyone who does not get it be stopped, no matter what. People are either near top of the value hierarchy or at the bottom. There are no in betweens in our religion. The more fear, the better. Lie a little bit if you have to. Remember, people instinctually want to feel as though they are fighting a crusade to believe that they are the holy warriors of justice and truth and salvation. You must then convince your followers that it is of the utmost importance that everyone who does not get it be stopped, no matter what. People are either near the top of the value hierarchy or at the bottom. There are no in betweens in our religion. The more fear, the better. Lie a little bit if you have to. Remember, people instinctually want to feel as though they are fighting a crusade to believe that they are the holy warriors of justice and truth and salvation. So say whatever you need to say, get them to feel that self-righteousness to keep the religion going. This is where conspiracy theories come in handy. It's not just that vaccines cause autism, it's that the medical and pharmaceutical industries are getting rich by destroying everyone's families. It's not just that pro-choices have a different view on the biological status of a because it's that they are soldiers sent by Satan to destroy good Christian families. It's not just that change is a hoax. It's that it's hoax created by Chinese government to slow the US economy and take over the world. Step 4. Ritual sacrifice for dummies. So easy, anyone can do it. Growing up in Texas, Jesus and football were the only gods that mattered. And while I learned to enjoy football despite being terrible at it, the whole Jesus thing never made a lot of sense to me. Jesus was alive, but then he died. But then he was alive again, then he died again. And he was a man, but he was also God. And now he is kind of man, God spirit thing that loves everyone eternally, except maybe depending on whom you ask. I could Jesus thing never made a lot of okay, except maybe depending on whom you ask. It all struck me as a kind of arbitrary, and I felt, how do I say this? Don't get me wrong, I could get behind most of the moral teachings of Christ. Be nice and love your neighbor and all that stuff. Youth groups were actually a ton of fun. Jesus Camp is maybe the most underrated summer activity all of all time. And the church usually had free cookies hiding somewhere in some room. Every Sunday morning, which when you are a kid is exciting. But if I am being totally honest, I don't like being and I don't like it for a really dumb reason. My parents made me wear lame dress clothes. That's right, I questioned my family's faith and went atheist at age 12 over kiddies, suspenders, and bow ties. I remember asking my dad, if God already knows everything and loves me no matter what, why does He care what I wear on Sundays? Dad would shush me, but Dad, if God will forgive us our sins and no matter what, why not just lie and cheat and steal all the time? Another church, but that church thing never really panned out for me. I was sneaking 9-inch nails t-shirts into Sunday school before my balls had completely dropped, and a couple of years later I struggled my way through my first Nazi book. From there it was all downhill. I started acting out. I bailed on Sunday school to go smoke cigarettes in the adjoining parking lot. It was over. I was a little heartened. The open questioning and skepticism eventually got so bad that my Sunday school teacher took me aside one morning and made me a deal. He'd give me a perfect marks in our confirmation class and tell my parents I was a model student as long as I stopped questioning the logical inconsistencies of the Bible in front of all the other kids. I agreed the book. This probably won't surprise you, but I am not very spiritual. No supernatural beliefs for me. Thank you. I get a sick pleasure for chaos and uncertainty. This unfortunately has condemned me to a life of struggle with the uncomfortable truth, but it's something I have come to accept about myself now that I am older. Though I get the whole dress up for Jesus thing, despite what I thought at the time, it wasn't about my parents or God torturing me. It was about respect and not to God, but but to the community, to the religion. Dressing up on Sunday is about virtue signaling to the other church goers. This serious stuff is serious business. It's part of us versus them dynamic. It signals that you are an us and that you should be treated as such. And then there are the robes. Ever noticed that the most important moments in the life are always accompanied by somebody in a robe? Wedding, graduation, funerals, court hearing, judicial community hearings, open heart surgeries, eh, and yes, even church ones. I first noticed that robe thing when I graduated from college. I was hungover and on about 3 hours sleep when I stumbled to my seat for commencement. I looked around and thought, holy shit, I haven't seen this many people wearing robes in one place since I went to church. Then I looked down and to my horror realized that I was one of them. The robe, a visual cue signaling status and importance, is part of the ritual thing, and we need rituals because rituals make our values tangible. You can't think your way toward valuing something. You have to live it, you have to experience it, and one way of making it easier for others to live and experience a value is to make up cute outfits for them to wear and important sounding words for them to say. In short, to give them rituals. Rituals are visuals and experimental representations of what we deem important. That's why every good religion has them. Remember, emotions are actions. The two are one of the same. Therefore, to modify or reinforce the feeling brain's value hierarchy, you need some easily repeatable yet totally unique and identifiable action for people to perform. That's where the rituals come in. Rituals are designed to be repeated over a long period of time, which only lends them an even greater sense of importance. After all, it's not often you get to the do exact same thing the people 500 years ago did. That's some heavy shit. Rituals are also symbolic as values. They must also embody some story or narrative. Churches have guys in robes dipping bread in wine or grape juice and feeding it to bunch of people to represent the body of Christ. The symbolism represents church sacrifice. He didn't deserve it. For our salvation, neither do we. But that's why it's powerful. Countries create rituals around their founding or around wars they have won or lost. We march in parades and wave flags and shoot off fireworks, and there is a shared sense that it all signifies something valuable and worthwhile. Married couples create their own little rituals and habits, their inside jokes, all to reframe the relationship value. Their own private interpersonal religion rituals connect us with the past. They connect us to our values and they affirm who we are. Rituals are usually about some sacrifice. Back in the old days, priests and chiefs would actually people on an altar, something's ripping out there, still beating hearts, and people would be screaming and banging on drums and doing all kinds of crazy shit. These sacrifices were made to appease an angry god, or ensure a good harvest, or bring about any number of other desired outcomes. But the real reason for ritual sacrifices was deeper than that. Humans are actually horrible, guilt-ridden creatures. Let's say you find a wallet with $100 in it, but no ID or any other info about whom it belongs to. No one is around, and you have to find the owner, so you keep it. Newton's first law of emotion states that every action produces an equal and opposite emotional reaction. In this case, something good happens to you without you deserving it. Cue guilt. Now think of it this way: you exist. You don't do anything to deserve existing. You don't even know why you start existing. You just did. Boom. You have a life, and you have no idea where it came from or why. If you believe God gave it to you, then holy shit, do you owe Him big time. But even if you don't believe in God, damn, you are blessed with life. What did you ever do to deserve that? How can you live in such a way to make your life worthwhile? This is the constant yet unanswerable question of the human condition, and why the inherent guilt of consciousness is the cornerstone of almost every spiritual religion. The sacrifice that pop up in ancient spiritual religions were enacted to give their adherents a feeling of repaying the debt of living the worthwhile life. Though back in the day, you'd actually sacrifice human beings a life for a life. Eventually, people smarted up and realized that you could symbolically sacrifice a life, Jesus or whatsoever, for the salvation of all mankind. The way we didn't have to keep cleaning blood off the altar every other day, and the flies. Don't even get me started on the flies. Most religious practices are developed for the elevation of guilt. You could even say that that's really all prayer in many to ideologically, most religions practices are developed in elevation episodes of guilt elevation. You don't pray to God to say, yeah, I am awesome. No, prayer is like a gratitude journal. Before there were gratitude journals, thanks God for letting me exist, even though it sucks to be. Sometimes I'm sorry I thought and did all these bad things. Boom, sense of guilt absolved, at least for a while. Ideologically, religions handle the guilt question for more efficiently than spiritual ones. Nation direct people's feelings of existential guilt towards service. Our country gave you these opportunities, so put on a damn uniform and fight to protect them. Right wing ideologies usually pursue necessary sacrifices in terms of protecting one's country and family. Left wing ideologies usually see necessary sacrifices as giving up for the greater good of all society. Finally, in interpersonal religions, sacrificing one's generate a sense of romance, loyalty. Think about marriage. I mean, you stand an altar and promise to give your life to this other person. We all struggle with the sense that we deserve to be loved, even if parents were awesome. You sometimes wonder, wow, why me? Why did I do to deserve this? Interpersonal religions have all sorts of rituals and sacrifices designed to make people feel they deserve to be loved. Rings, gifts, anniversaries, wiping the piece of the floor when I miss the toilet. It's the little things that add up. One big thing, you are welcome, money. Chef, I promise heaven, deliver hell. If you have made it this far in starting your own religion, it means you have assembled a nice group of hopeless people desperately avoiding the uncomfortable truth by studying a bunch of bullshit you have made up, ignoring their friends and telling their families to. Now it's time to get serious. The beauty of religion is that the more you promise your followers salvation, enlightenment, world peace, perfect happiness, or whatever, the more they will fail to live up to the promise, and the more they fail up to live to that promise, to that promise, the more they blame themselves and feel guilty. And the more they blame themselves and feel guilty, the more they'll do whatever you tell them to do to make up for it. Some people might call this the cycle of psychological abuse, but let's not allow such terms to ruin our fun. Pyramid schemes do this really well. You give us come back some money for a bunch of products you don't want or need, and then you spend the next 3 months desperately trying to get other people to sign up for the scheme under, and you also buy and sell products nobody wants or needs, and it doesn't work. Then instead of recognizing the obvious, the product is one big scam, selling a scam to sell more scams. You blame yourself because look, the guy on the top of the pyramid has a Ferrari and you want a Ferrari, so clearly the problem must be you, right? Fortunately, the guy with the Ferrari has graciously agreed to put on a seminar to help you sell more crap nobody wants to sell. Who will then try to sell more crap nobody wants to? More people who will sell it, and so on. And at said seminar, most of the time it spends psyching you up with music and chants and creating an us versus them dichotomy. Winners never give up, losers believe it wouldn't work for them, and you come away from the seminar really motivated and pumped, but still with no idea how to sell anything, especially crap nobody wants. And instead of getting pissed off at the money based religion you bought into, you get pissed off with yourself. You blame yourself for failing to live up to your God value, regardless of how ill advised that God value is. You can see this cycle of desperation play out in all sorts of other areas: fitness and diet plans, politician activism, self-help seminars, financial planning, visiting your grandmother on a holiday. The message is always the same. The more you do it, the more you are told you need to do it. Finally experience the satisfaction you have been promised. Yet this satisfaction never comes. Look, time out for a second. Let me be the one to break the bad news to you. Human pain is like a game, whack-a-mole. Every time you knock down one no kind of pain, another one pops up, and the faster you whack them, the faster they come back. The pain may get better, it may change shape, it may be less catastrophic each time, but it will always be there. It's the part of us, it is us. A lot of religious spokespeople out there make a lot of money by claiming that they can beat the pain of a whack-a-mole game for you once and for all, but the truth is that there is no end to the pain. Moles, the faster you hit them, the faster they come back, and that's how all the douche canoes in the religion game stay in the business so long. Instead of admitting that the game is rigged, that our human nature is fundamentally designed to generate pain, they blame you for not winning the game, or worse, they blame some you bless them if you could just get rid of them. We'd all stop suffering. Pinky swear, but that doesn't work either. That just transfers the pain from one population to another and amplifies it. Because seriously, if someone really could solve all your problems, they'd go out of business by next Tuesday or get voted out of office next week. Leaders need their followers to be perpetually dissatisfied. It's good for the leadership business if everything were perfect and great. For the leadership business, if everything were perfect and great, there'd be no reason to follow anybody. No religion will ever make you feel blissful and peaceful all at that. No country will ever feel completely fair and safe. No political philosophy will solve everyone's problem at the time. True equality can never be achieved. Someone somewhere will always be screwed over. True freedom doesn't really exist because we all must sacrifice some autonomy for stability. No one, no matter how much you love them or they love you, will ever absolve that the internal guilt you feel simply for existing. It's all everything is. It's always has been and always will be. There are social no solutions, no gap measures, only incremental improvements, only slightly better forms of than others, and each time we stop running from that and instead embrace it. This is our world and we are the ones in it. Step 6: profit for profit. So this is it. You have come to the end. You have your religion and it's time to reap all its benefits. Now that you have got your little following giving you their money and cutting your grass, you can finally have everything you have ever wished for. Want a dozen? Just say the word, make up scripture, tell your followers that stage 6 of humanity enlightenment can only be found in the prophets orgasms. Want a huge piece of land out in the middle of nowhere? Just tell your followers that only you can build paradise for them and it needs to be really far away. Oh, by the way, they need to pay for it. Want to power and prestige? Tell your followers to vote you into office or even better overthrow the government with violence. If you do your job well, they should be willing to give up their lives for you. The opportunities really are endless. No more loneliness, no more relationship problem, no more financial voice. You can fulfill your wildest dreams. You just have to trample on the hopes and dreams of thousands of other people to get there. Yes, my friend, you have worked hard for this, therefore you deserve all the benefits without any meddlesome social concerns or pedantic arguments about ethics and whatnot, because that's what you get to do when you start your own religion. You get to decide what is ethical, you get to decide what is right, and you get to decide who is righteous. Righteous. Maybe this whole start a religion thing makes you scream. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you are already in one. Whether you realize it or not, you have adopted some groups, beliefs, and values. You participate in the rituals and offer up the sacrifices. You draw the us versus them lines and intellectually isolate yourself. This is what we all do. Religious beliefs and their constitute tribal behavior are a fundamental part of our nature. It's impossible not to adopt them. If you think you are above religion, that you use logic and reason, I am sorry to say you are wrong. You are one of us. If you think you are well informed and highly educated, you are not. You still suck. We all must have faith in something. We must find value somewhere. It's how we psychologically survive and thrive. It's how we find hope. And even if you have a vision for a better future, it's too hard to go it alone. You realize any dream you need support networks for both emotional and logistical reasons. It takes an army literally. It's our value hierarchies and expressed through the stories of religion and shared among thousands or millions that attract, organize, and propel human systems forward in a sort of Darwinian competition. Darwinian competition. Religions compete in the world for resources, and the religions that tend to win out are those whose value hierarchies makes the most efficient use of labor and capital, and so it wins out. More and more people adopt the winning religion's value hierarchy, as it has demonstrated the most value to individuals in the population. These victories religions can stabilize and become the foundation for culture. But here is the problem: every time a religion succeeds, every time it spreads its message far and wide and comes to dominate a huge swath of human emotion and endeavor. Time to spread its message far and wide and come to dominate a huge swath of human emotion and endeavor. Its value change. The religion's God value no longer comprises the principle that inspired the religions in the first place. Its God value slowly shifts and become the preservation of the religion itself, not to lose what it has gained. And this is where the corruption begins. When the original values that define the religion, the moment the revolution, get tossed aside for the sake of maintaining the status quo. This is narcissism at an organizational level. This is how go from Jesus to the Crusades, from Marxism to the Gulags, from a wedding chapel to divorce road. This corruption of the religion's original values rots away at the religion's following, thus leading to this rising up of newer reactionary religions that eventually conquer the original one. Then the whole process begins again. In this sense, success is in many ways far more uh, precarious than failure. First, because the more you gain, the more you have to lose, and second, because the more you have to lose, the harder it is to maintain hope. But more important, because by experiencing our hopes, we lose them. We see that our beautiful visions for a perfect future are not so perfect, that our dreams and aspirations are themselves riddled with unexpected flaws and unforeseen sacrifices. Because the only thing that can ever truly destroy a dream is to have to come true. Chapter 5. In the late 19th century, during a mild and glorious summer in the Swiss Alpha, a hermetic philosopher, a self anointed dynamite of mind and spirit, metaphorically, came down off his mountaintop and with his own money of published a book. The book was his gift to mankind, a gift that stood boldly upon the doorstep of the modern world and announced the world words that would make the philosopher famous long after his death. It announced God is dead and more. It announced that the echoes of his death would be harbinger of a new and dangerous age that would challenge us all. The philosopher spoke these words as a warning. He spoke as a watchman. He spoke for all us. Yet the book sold fewer than 40 copies. Meta warned Sally woke up before down the light the fire over to boil water for the philosopher's tea. She fetched ice to cool the blankets for his ankle joints. She gathered bones from yesterday's dinner to begin stewing a broth that would settle his stomach. She hand washed his soiled lines, and soon he would need his hair cropped and his mustache trimmed. And she realized she had forgotten to fetch a new razor. This was Meta's third summer caring for Frederick Nazi, and probably she figured at last she loved him as a brother. That is, when a mutual friend suggests that marry, that they both laugh uproariously and then become Nash. She had met Nazi at a dinner party. She listened to him play piano and tell jokes and rambunctious stories of his antics with his old friend composer Richard Wagner. Unlike in his writing, Nazi was polite and mild in person. He was an affectionate listener. He was a lover of poetry and could recite dozens of verses from memory. He'd sit and play word games for hours, sing songs and make puns. Nazi was disarmingly brilliant. A mind so sharp he could slice a room open with only a few words. Aphorisms that would later become world famous seemed to spill out of him like fog breath in cold air. Listen to him like he's unlike his writing. Nazi was polite and mild in person. He was an affectionate listener. He was a lover of poetry and could recite dozens of verses from memory. He'd sit and play word games for hours, sing songs and make puns. Nazi was disarmingly brilliant, a mind so sharp he could slice a room open with only a few words. Aphorisms that would later become world famous seemed to spoil out of him like fog breathe in cold air. Talking too much about yourself can also be a means to conceal yourself. He would spontaneously add, quickly silencing the room. Meta often found herself speechless in his presence, not because of any overwhelming emotion, but merely because her mind felt as though it were constantly a few paces behind his and needed a moment to catch up. Yes, Meta was no intellectual slouch. In fact, she was a badass of her time. Meta was first woman ever to earn a PhD in Switzerland. She was also one of world's leading feminist writers and activists. She spoke four languages fluently and published articles all over Europe arguing for women's rights, a radical idea at that time. She was well traveled, brilliant, and headstrong, and when she stumbled upon Nazi's work, she felt she had finally found someone whose ideas could push women's liberation out into the world. Here was a man who argued for the empowerment of the individual for radical personal responsibility. Here was a man who believed that individual aptitude mattered more than anything, that each human not only deserved expansion into his or her full potential, but had the duty to exercise and push for the expansion Nazi put into words. Meta believed the core ideas and conceptual frameworks that would ultimately empower women and lead them out of their perpetual servitude. But there was only one problem. Nazi wasn't feminist. In fact, he found the whole idea of women's liberation ridiculous. That this didn't deter Meta. He was a man of reason. He could be persuaded. He was simply needed to recognize his own prejudice and be freed from it. She began visiting him regularly, and soon they became close friends and intellectual companions. They spent summers in Switzerland, winter in France and Italy, forays into Venice, quick trips doubling back to Germany and then Switzerland again. As the years wore on, Meta discovered that behind Nazi's penetrating eyes and the jetting mustache was a bundle of contradiction. He wrote obsessively of power while being himself frail and weak. He preached radical responsibility and self-reliance despite being fully dependent and mostly female friends and family to take care of and support him. He cursed the fickle reviewers and academics who panned his work or refused to read it, while simultaneously boasting that his lack of popular success only proved his brilliance. As he once proclaimed, "My time has not come yet. Some men are born post." Nazi was in fact everything he claimed to uh, Lothian weak, dependent, and wholly captivated and reliant on powerful, independent women. Yet in his work he preached individual strength and self-resilience and was a powerful misogynist. His lifelong dependence on the care of women seemed to blur his ability to see them clearly. It would be glaring blind spot in the vision of an otherwise prophetic man. If there were a hall of fame for most pain tolerated by a single individual, I would nominate Nazi as one of its finest cornerstone inductees. He was continually sick as a child. Doctors applied leeches to his neck and ears and told him to spend hours without moving. He inherited a neurological disorder that brought about debilitating migraines through his life and caused him to go mad in middle age. He was also incredibly sensitive to light, unable to go outside without big blue tinted glass, and would be nearly blind by the age of 30. As a young man, he would join the military and serve briefly in the Franco-Prussian War. There he would contract diphtheria and dysentery, which nearly killed him. The treatment at the time was acid enemas, which destroyed his digestive tract. For the rest of his life, he would struggle with acute digestive pain, was never able to eat large meals, and was incontinent for part of his life. An injury for his cowardly days left parts of the body inflexible and on his worst days immovable. He often needed help standing up and would spend months at times stuck alone in bed, unable to open his eyes due to the pain. In 1880, what he would later call a bad year, he was bedridden 260 out of 365 days. He spent most of his life migrating between the French coast in the winter and the Swiss Alps in the summer, as he required mild temperatures to keep his bones and joints from itching. Meta quickly discovered that she wasn't the only intellectual woman fascinated by this man. He had a parade of women coming by to take care of him for weeks or months at the time. Like Meta, these women were badasses at the time. They were professors and wealthy land owners and entrepreneurs. They were educated and multilingual and fiercely independent. Friedrich, Friedrich. And they were feminists, the earliest feminists that they too had seen the liberating message in Nazis' work. He wrote of social structures crippling the individual. Feminists argued that the social structures of the age imprisoned them. He denounced the church for rewarding the weak and mediocre. Feminists too. He denounced the church for forcing women into marriage and subservience to men, and he dared recast the story of human history not as mankind's escape from and dominance over nature, but as mankind's growing ignorance to its own nature. He argued that the individual must empower himself and access ever higher levels of freedom and consciousness. These women saw feminism as the next step to that higher liberation. Nazi filled them all with hope, and they took turning caring for their deteriorating broken men, hopeful that the next book, the next essay, the next polemic would be the one that broke open the floodgates. But for most of his life, his work was almost universally ignored. Then Nazi announced the death of God, and he went from falling university professor to pariah. He was unemployable and basically homeless. No one wanted anything to do with him. No university, no publisher, not even many of his friends. He rounded together money to publish his work himself, borrowing from his mother and sister to survive. He relied on funds to manage his life for him, and even then his book hardly sold a copy. Yes, despite it all, this woman stuck with him. They cleaned him and fed him and carried him. They believed there were something in this disrepute man that could potentially change history, and so they waited. A brief history of the world. According to Nazi, let's say you drop a bunch of people into a place of land and limited resources and have them start a civilization from scratch. Here is what happens. Some people are naturally more gifted than others. Some are smarter, some are bigger and stronger, some are more charismatic, some are friendly and get along easily with others, some work harder and come up with better ideas. The people with natural advantages will accumulate more resources than others, and because they have more resources, they will have a disproportionate amount of power within this new society. They will be able to use that power to garner more resources and more advantages, and so on. You know the whole rich get richer thing. Run this through enough generation, and pretty soon you have a social hierarchy with a small number of elites at the top and the large number of people getting completely hosed at the bottom. Since the advent of agriculture, all human societies have exhibited this satisfaction, and all societies must deal with the tension that emerges between the advantaged elite and the disadvantaged masses. Nazi called the elite the masters of society as they have almost complete control over wealth production and political power. He called the working masses the slaves of society. Because he saw little difference between a laborer working his whole life for a small sum and slavery itself. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Nazi argued that the masters of society would come to see their privilege as well deserved. That is, they would craft value narratives to justify their elite status. Why shouldn't they be rewarded for it? It was good. They were on top. They deserved it. They were the smartest and strongest and most talented. Therefore, they were the most righteous. Nazi called this belief system in which those who end up ahead do so because they deserved it. Master morality. Master morality is the moral belief that people get that they deserve. It's the moral belief that might makes right. That if you earn something through hard work or ingenuity, you deserve it. No one can take that from you, nor should they. You are the best, and because you have demonstrated superiority, you should be rewarded for it. Conversely, Nazi argued the slaves of society would generate a moral code of their own, whereas the master believed they were righteous and virtuous because of their strength, the slaves. Master morality is the moral belief that people get what they deserve. It's the moral belief that might make right. That if you earn something through hard work or ingenuity, you deserve it. No one can take that from you, nor should they. You are the best, and because you have demonstrated superiority, you should be rewarded for it. Conversely, Nazi argued the slaves of society would generate a moral code of their own, whereas the master believed they were righteous and virtuous. Because of the strength, the slaves of society come to believe that they were righteous and virtuous. Because of their weakness, slave morality believes that people who have suffered the most, those who are the most disadvantaged and exploited, deserve the best treatment because of their suffering. Slave morality believes that it's the poorest and most unfortunate who deserve the most sympathy and most respect, whereas master morality believes in the virtue of strength and dominance. Slave morality believes in the virtue of sacrifice and submission. While master morality believes in the necessity of hierarchy, slave morality believes in the necessity of equality. While master morality is generally represented by right-wing political beliefs, slave morality is usually found in left-wing political beliefs. We all contain both these moralities within us. Imagine you are in class at school and you study your ass off and get the highest test score. And because you get the highest test score, you are awarded a benefit due to your success. You feel morally justified. Having these benefits, after all, you worked hard and earned them. You are good student and good person for being a good student. This is master morality. Now imagine you have a classmate. This classmate has 18 siblings, all being raised by a single mother. The classmate works multiple part-time jobs and is never be able to study because she is literally putting food on the table for her brothers and sisters. She fails the same exam that you passed with flying colors. Is that fair? No, it's not. You will probably feel that she deserved some sort of special exception due to her situation. Maybe a chance to retake the test or to take it a later date when she has time to study for it. She deserves this because she is a good person for her sacrifices and disadvantages. This is slave morality. In Newtonian terms, master morality is the intrinsic desire to create a moral separation between ourselves and the world around us. Is the desire to create moral gaps with us on top. Slave morality is then an intrinsic desire to equalize, to close the moral gap, and alleviate suffering. Both are fundamental components of our feeling brain's operating system. Both generate and perpetuate strong emotions, and both gives us hope. Nazir argued that the cultures of the ancient world, Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Indian, and so on, were master morality cultures. They were structured to celebrate strength and excellence even at the expense of millions of slaves and subjects. They were warrior civilizations. They celebrated guts, glory, and bloodshed. Nazi argued that the Judeo-Christian ethic of charity, pity, and compassion unshed slave morality to prominence and continued to dominate Western civilization up through his own time. For Nazi, these two value hierarchy were in constant tension and opposition. They were, he believed, at the root of all political and social conflict throughout history, and he warned that conflict was about to get much worse. Each religion is a faith-based attempt to explain reality in such a way that it gives people a steady stream of hope in a kind of Darwin competition. Those religions that mobilize, coordinate, and inspire their believers the most are that the win out and spread throughout the world. In the ancient world, pagan religions in the ancient world, pagan religions built on master morality justified the existence of emperors and warrior kings who swept across the planet, expanding and consolidating territory. And in the ancient world, pagan religions built on master morality justified the existence of emperors and warrior kings who swept across the planet, expanding and consolidating territory and people. Then, about 2000 years ago, slave morality religions emerged and slowly began to take their place. These new religions were usually monotheistic and were not limited to one nation, race, or ethnic group. They preached their message to everyone because their message was one of equality. All people were either born good and later corrupted, or were born sinners and had to be saved. Either way, the result was the same. Everyone, regardless of nation, race, or creed, had to be converted in the name of one true God. Then, in the 17th century, a new religion began to emerge in Europe, a religion that would unleash forces more powerful than anything seen in human history. Every religion runs into the sticky problem of evidence. You can tell people all this great stuff about God and spirit and angels and whatnot, but if the entire town burns down and your kid loses an arm in a fishing accident, well, then oops, where was God? Throughout history, authorities have expended a lot of the effort that hide the lack of evidence supporting their religions and or to punish to anyone who dare question the validity of their faith-based values. It's for this reason that, like most atheists, Nazi loaded spiritual religions. Natural philosophers and scientists were called is Isaac Newton's time decided that the most reliable faith-based beliefs were those who had the most evidence supporting them. Evidence become the God value. And any belief that was no longer supported by evidence had to be altered to account for new observed reality. This produced a new religion, science. Science is arguably the most effective religion based. It is the first religion that is able to evolve and improve upon itself. It in it is open to anybody and everybody. It is not more to a single book or creed. It is not beholden to some ancient land or people. It is not tethered the threat to a supernatural spirit whose existence cannot be proven or disproven. It is an ongoing, ever changing body of evidence. Based beliefs on that is free to mutate, grow, and shift as the evidence dictates. The scientist revolution changed the world more than anything before or since. It has reshaped the planet, lifted billions out of disease and poverty, and improved every aspect of life. It is not an exaggerating to suggest that science may be the only demonstrable good thing humanity has ever done for itself. Thank you, Francis Bacon. Thank you, Isaac Newton, and you Titans. Since science is singularly responsible for all the great inventions and advances in human history, from medicine and agriculture to education and commerce. But science did something else even more spectacular. It introduced to the world the concept of growth. For most of human history, growth wasn't a thing. Change occurred so slowly that everyone died in pretty much the same economic condition they were born in. The average human from 2000 years ago experienced about as much economic growth in his lifetime as we experience in 6 months today. People would live their entire lives and nothing changed. No new developments, inventions, or technologies. People would live and die on the same land, among the same people, using the same tools, and nothing ever got better. In fact, things like plagues and famine and war and ruling rulers with large armies often made everything worse. It was a slow, grueling, miserable existence, and with no prospect for change or better life in this lifetime. People drew their hope from spiritual promises of a better life in the next lifetime. Spiritual religions flourished and dominated daily life. Everything revolved around the church or synagogue or temple or mosque or whatever. Priests and holy men were the arbiters of social life because they were the arbiters of hope. They were the only one who could tell you what God wanted, and God was the only one who could promise any salvation or better future. Therefore, this holy man dictated everything that was of value in society. Then science happened and shit got crazy. Miss microscopes and printing presses and internal combustion engines and cotton, jeans and thermometers, and finally some goddamn medicine that actually worked. Suddenly, life got better, more important. You could see life getting better. People used better tools, had access to more food, were healthier, and made more money. Finally, you could look back 10 years and say, whoa, can you believe we used to live like that? And that ability to look back and see progress, see growth happen changed how people view the future. It changed how they view themselves forever. Now you don't have to wait until that to improve lot. You could improve in here and now. And this implied all sort of wonderful things. Freedom for one. However, how were you going to choose to grow today? But also responsibility because you could now control your destiny. You had to take responsibility for that destiny.